Hello everyone, and welcome back to English in Fluency. I'm your host, Alex. If you are new here, this is the place where we help you improve your English every single day. We create new episodes just for you, to make your English better, more natural, and much easier to use in your real life. Today's topic is one of the most powerful skills you can possibly develop on your English journey. It's the secret to unlocking true fluency. We are going to talk about how to think in English and speak like a native. I know that many English learners struggle with this. It's a very common problem. You think of a sentence in your own language first. Then you try to translate it into English in your head before you speak. This mental translation process creates delays. It makes you hesitate, and it often makes your sentences sound a little unnatural or awkward. In this episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to change that. You will learn practical, simple tips that you can start using today. And I will share stories and examples to make everything perfectly clear. I remember when I first started learning Spanish, I had this exact same problem. I was standing in a small coffee shop in a beautiful city in Spain. The person behind the counter smiled and asked me what I wanted, and my mind just froze. In my head, I was building the perfect sentence in English first. I would like a large black coffee, please. Then, I started the slow process of translating each word into Spanish. I was searching for the right words, worrying about the grammar, checking the word order. By the time I was ready to speak, the moment was gone. The line behind me was getting longer, and I just pointed at something and said one word: Café. That experience taught me a valuable lesson. Translating in your head is a barrier to real communication. Now, I want you to imagine a different situation. You are talking to a colleague at work. Maybe his name is Mark. He comes to your desk and asks, "What do you think about this new report?" If you start translating from your language into English, you will pause. You might look away while you search for the words. You might hesitate. But if you think directly in English, your answer can come quickly and naturally. You could say, "I think the report looks great, but maybe we can add more details to the introduction." This is how native speakers talk. Their speech is smooth. It's confident, because their thoughts are already in English. The very first step to thinking in English is to start using English for the simple, tiny things you do during your day. For example, when you wake up in the morning, don't think, "I need to brush my teeth" in your language and then translate it. Try to say it directly in English, inside your mind. "I need to brush my teeth." When you are making your morning coffee, think to yourself, "I am making coffee now. It smells so good." These small, simple habits are like planting seeds. They will slowly build your English brain until it becomes strong and automatic. I remember one of my students, a wonderful woman named Maria. She used to translate every single word in her head. She told me, "Alex, I can't speak fast. My brain is too slow." I gave her this one piece of advice. I said, "Maria, every time you see something, anything at all, just describe it in English, silently in your head." So, if she saw a chair, she would think, "This is a wooden chair. It looks comfortable." If she saw a car, she would think, "That is a red car. It is driving fast." After just 1 month of doing this consistently, her English changed completely. She could answer questions in our class without that long pause. She wasn't thinking in her native language first anymore. The English thoughts were starting to come naturally. Another great way to build this skill is to ask yourself questions in English and, you guessed it, answer them in English. For example, when you are walking outside, ask yourself in your mind, "What do I see?" Then, answer yourself, "I see a tall building. The sky is blue today. People are walking quickly on the sidewalk." This simple exercise makes English an active part of your thinking process, not just something you use when you have to speak. A very important thing to remember is this: do not wait for perfect grammar before you start thinking and speaking in English. Native speakers do not think about every single grammar rule when they talk. They focus on sharing their ideas, not on grammar charts. When you start to think in English, you learn to do the same thing. Communication becomes more important than perfection. Let me give you another real-life example. My friend, Leo, moved to the United States for his job. In the beginning, he always translated before he spoke. It was his habit. One day, during a very important meeting, his boss asked him a direct question. Leo told me he could feel everyone looking at him. He translated the question into his language. Then he thought of his answer. And then he started translating his answer back into English. Everyone was waiting. And Leo felt so nervous and stressed. Later that day, he called me and said, "I have to change this. I can't keep doing this." So, he started practicing by thinking in English during his daily commute on the train. He would look out the window and describe everything he saw in his mind. After about 2 months, he could answer questions in meetings without any delay. He felt so much more confident. Here is another simple exercise for you. When you are cooking, say the steps in English, either in your mind or even quietly out loud. I am cutting the onions. I am adding some salt. The water is boiling now. If you do this every day, your brain will slowly stop relying on your first language as a bridge. It will start to use English automatically. A final tip before we continue with more examples and stories. Stop using subtitles in your own language when you watch something in English. This is a big one. It's so tempting, I know. But if you can, use English subtitles instead. Or, if you feel brave, use no subtitles at all. This forces your brain to connect the English words you hear with the meaning and the action you see on the screen directly. It cuts out the middle step of translation. Now, let's dive into some more practical techniques and real stories that will help you sound even more like a native speaker. Let's go deeper into this powerful idea of thinking in English. I want you to imagine another situation. You are in a supermarket, pushing your cart down the aisle. You turn a corner, and you see your colleague, Mark, again. He smiles and says, "Hey, how are you?" Now, if you think in your own language first, you have to do all that mental work again. You translate his question, you create your answer, then you translate your answer into English. That takes time and creates stress. But if you think in English, your response comes out naturally, without any effort. "I'm good, thanks. Just buying some groceries. How about you?" Notice how simple and easy that sounds, yet it feels natural and confident. This is why I always tell my students, do not focus on creating long and complicated sentences at first. That is a trap. Instead, focus on using the quick, natural phrases that native speakers use all the time. For example, instead of saying a long sentence like, "I am going to my house after work because I need to complete some tasks," a native speaker would probably just say, "I'm heading home after work to finish some things." Thinking in English helps you choose the simpler, more natural version without stress. Here is another example. Imagine you are in a team meeting and someone asks, "What's your opinion on this new plan?" If you think in English, you might say something like, "I think it's a good idea. We just need to adjust the timeline a little." It's direct and clear. But if you translate from your language, you might end up saying something that sounds a bit unnatural, like, "According to my opinion, this plan seems acceptable." Can you hear the difference? Thinking directly in English helps you avoid those awkward, textbook-like phrases. Now, let's talk about some specific techniques that will make this whole process faster and easier for you. One of my absolute favorite exercises is called shadowing. Shadowing is simple but incredibly powerful. It means you listen to a short piece of English audio. It could be from a podcast like this one or a news report, and you repeat it immediately, trying to copy the same rhythm, speed, and tone of the speaker. For example, if you hear the sentence, "Today is a great day for a walk," you repeat it right away. "Today is a great day for a walk." You don't have to wait. You say it almost at the same time as the speaker. Doing this over and over again trains your brain, your mouth, and your ears to process English without translating. Another powerful method is role-playing. Let's do a quick role-play right now. Imagine two friends, let's call them Emily and Ben, are talking after a long day at work. Ben says, "Hey, Emily, what are your plans for the weekend?" Emily answers, "I'm planning to visit my parents. We'll probably have lunch together." Ben says, "That sounds nice. I might go hiking if the weather is good." Emily says, "Great. Hiking is a wonderful way to relax." Now, listen carefully to that conversation again in your mind. Did you notice the short, clear sentences? Did you notice the natural flow? When you think in English, these kinds of sentences become automatic for you. Here is a story from one of my listeners, a man named David. David moved to Canada last year for a new job. At first, he was afraid to speak because he was always translating in his head. He told me, "Alex, I felt like I was speaking too slowly, and everyone was getting impatient with me." I gave him this advice. I told him to start with simple thoughts in English during his daily activities, just describing the world around him. After a few months, David sent me an amazing message. He said, "I just had a long 30-minute conversation with my colleague about a project, and I didn't translate anything in my head. Not once." That is the incredible power of this method. Now, let's talk about some common mistakes people make when they try to think in English. It's important to know what to avoid. One big mistake is trying to memorize long lists of vocabulary words. That doesn't really help you think faster. Instead, it's much better to learn short phrases and common expressions. For example, instead of just memorizing the single word consideration, learn the whole phrase. Take it into consideration. Phrases like this make your speech much more natural and fluid. Another common mistake is worrying too much about grammar while you are thinking. Remember, when you think in your own native language, do you check every single grammar rule before a thought is complete? Of course not. You just think. You need to do the same in English. Focus on communication first. Focus on getting your idea across. Your grammar will improve naturally with more practice and exposure. Let's practice with another scenario. Imagine you are at a restaurant with your colleague. Let's call her Sophia. She looks at the menu and asks you, "What are you going to order?" If you think directly in English, you can answer quickly. "I think I'll have the grilled chicken." Sophia might say, "That sounds good. I'm getting the pasta." This is how conversations flow smoothly when you stop building a wall of translation in your mind. Here's another interesting story for you. My friend Olivia once told me about her husband, Mark. Mark wanted to improve his English very quickly because he had to attend international meetings every single week for his job. At first, he would write down his answers and ideas in his own language and then translate them into English before the meeting. This made him very nervous, and he sounded like he was reading from a script. One day, he decided to stop translating completely. He started thinking in English during his morning walk. He would describe everything he saw. "The sun is bright this morning. The road is busy. Many people are jogging in the park." After about 3 months of this daily practice, he was confident and could speak in his meetings without any stress. Let me share a specific tip that Mark used, which is very effective. Choose a different topic each day and just think about it in English for 5 minutes. That's it, just 5 minutes. For example, today's topic could be travel. Ask yourself in English, "Where do I want to travel next? Why do I want to go there?" Then answer yourself in English. "I want to travel to Spain because I love the culture and the food." Do this every day with different topics. Your hobbies, your family, your job, the news. It's like taking your brain to the gym. It trains your mind to think faster and more flexibly in English. Another very practical technique is keeping an English diary. You don't have to write a lot. Every night, before you go to sleep, just write 3 simple sentences about your day. In English. For example, "Today I worked on a big project. I felt happy because I finished it on time. Tomorrow I plan to relax and read a book." Writing like this helps you practice organizing your thoughts directly in English, which is a key part of thinking in English. Let's go back to some role-playing. Imagine Ben and Emily meet in the office cafeteria during their lunch break. Ben says, "Hi, Emily. How was your weekend?" Emily answers, "It was great, thanks. I visited my parents. What about you?" Ben says, "Mine was relaxing. I just read a book and went for a long walk." Emily says, "That sounds nice. Which book did you read?" Ben replies, "I read a book about leadership. It was very interesting." Do you see how natural and effortless that sounds? Thinking in English is what makes these simple, everyday conversations so easy. One more powerful idea for you is to learn English collocations. Collocations are simply words that naturally go together, like make a decision or take a break. If you know these common combinations, you won't have to stop and think about which words to use. For example, instead of saying, "do a decision," you will automatically say, "make a decision." Thinking in English becomes much faster when you have a good knowledge of collocations. Now, imagine you are at work, and your manager says, "We need to finish this project by Friday." If you think in English, you can reply quickly and confidently. "Sure, I'll make sure it's ready on time. It's simple, it's clear, and it sounds perfectly natural. Another exercise that helps a lot is speaking to yourself in English. You don't need anyone else for this. When you are walking, when you are cooking, when you are driving, just talk to yourself about what you are doing or thinking. I'm walking to the shop now. I need to buy some bread and milk. The weather is nice today. This is a great, no-pressure way to train your mind and get your mouth used to forming English words. Before we move on to the next advanced tip, here is something very important to remember. Do not be afraid of making mistakes when you think in English. Mistakes are a natural and necessary part of learning. Even native speakers make mistakes sometimes. The goal is to become a confident and fluent communicator, not a perfect one. Now, let's do another short role play. This time, we are at an airport. Sophia says, "Hi, Mark. Are you ready for the flight?" Mark replies, "Yes, I already checked in online. How about you?" Sophia says, "Same here. I hope the flight isn't delayed." Mark answers, "Me too. I want to arrive on time because I have a meeting tomorrow morning." Sophia says, "Don't worry. Everything will be fine." Practicing conversations like this in your mind will make you faster and more prepared in real life. Here is another story about one of my students, a woman named Chloe. Chloe was very shy, and she avoided speaking in English because she felt so nervous about making mistakes and speaking slowly. I told her to try a very simple technique. Think about her daily routine in English. When she woke up, she would say in her head, "I am brushing my teeth. I am making breakfast. I am leaving for work now." After just 2 weeks of this, she sent me an email. She said, "Alex, I feel more confident now because English is always in my mind. It feels like a friend now, not an enemy." Now, let's move on to some more advanced strategies for thinking in English. Once you are comfortable with the basics, you can take it to the next level. One very powerful way is to use English when you plan your day. For example, instead of writing your to-do list in your native language, write it in English. Finish the report, call the client, prepare for the presentation. This small habit will make your brain work in English in a very practical way. You can also think in English when you make decisions. For example, if you are in a shop and you're deciding what to buy, you can have a little conversation in your mind. In English, should I buy the red shirt or the blue one? The red one looks better on me. I'll get the red one. Making choices in English is excellent practice for real-life fluency. Another fun and effective exercise is storytelling. At the end of your day, tell yourself the story of your day in English. For example, "This morning I woke up early. I went for a short walk in the park. Then I started work on an important project." This helps you practice using the past tense and improves your overall fluency and ability to connect ideas. I will give you another real-life dialogue example. Imagine Ben and Sophia are planning a team project at work. Ben says, "We need to decide who will do each part of the project." Sophia replies, "I can work on the research section." Ben says, "Great, I'll take care of the presentation slides." Sophia says, "Perfect. Let's meet again tomorrow to check our progress." Ben replies, "Sounds good. See you then." These conversations are short, simple, and natural. When you think in English, you can create sentences like these very quickly, without any effort. Now, Let's talk for a moment about pronunciation. Thinking in English can also improve your pronunciation because you start to hear the sounds of English in your mind. For example, if you always think in your language first, your pronunciation may be heavily influenced by the sounds of your first language. But when you think in English, you are training your brain to use English sounds from the very beginning of the thought process. Another interesting point is confidence. So many learners lose confidence because they take too long to answer questions. They feel like they are slowing down the conversation. When you think in English, your answers are faster, so you feel much more confident. And confidence makes a huge difference in conversations, job interviews, and meetings. I also want to share something important about speaking with native speakers. If you think in English, you will understand jokes, idioms, and cultural phrases much more easily. For example, if a colleague in the US says, "It's raining cats and dogs," you will instantly know they mean it's raining very heavily. Not that there are real animals falling from the sky. Thinking in English helps you catch these common expressions quickly, without getting confused by a literal translation. Now, let's do a final role play for this section. Imagine you are in a meeting with your team. Your manager says, "We need some new ideas for the marketing campaign." Ben says, "I think we should focus more on social media." Sophia replies, "That's a good point. We could create some short videos to promote the product." The manager replies, "Excellent suggestions. Let's start working on this today." These sentences show how naturally ideas can flow when you don't stop to translate. Another powerful step for thinking in English is to surround yourself with the language in your physical environment. For example, change your phone's language settings to English. When you open your phone, you will see Settings, Messages, and Calendar in English. This small change forces your brain to think in English every single time you use your phone, which is probably many times a day. Let me tell you about my student, Michael. He works as an engineer, and his company recently hired several people from different countries. Michael wanted to communicate better with his new colleagues, but he always felt slow because he was translating every sentence in his mind. I told him to try using English for a specific activity every morning. He started reading short news articles in English, and then he would tell himself what he understood in English. For example, he'd think, "This article is about new technology. It explains new tools for building houses." After just 1 month, he sent me a message saying, "Alex, now I can join our team discussions without feeling nervous. I can share my ideas." Another very useful method is to create imaginary conversations in your head. Think about what you might say to a neighbor, a colleague, or even a shop assistant. For example, imagine you are meeting a neighbor, let's call him Daniel, at your apartment building's gate. You can say in your head, "Hello, Daniel. How are you today? The weather is nice, isn't it? Did you have a busy morning?" Then, you can imagine his answer and continue the conversation in your mind. This kind of practice builds quick thinking and helps you prepare for real situations so you don't feel surprised or nervous. Let's do a small role play using this idea. Let's imagine I'm talking to my friend, Sarah. I say, "Good morning, Sarah. Did you sleep well?" Sarah replies in my mind, "Yes, I slept very well. I woke up early to prepare breakfast." How about you? I think of my response. I slept well too. I'm going to the office now. Sarah says, have a good day at work. This kind of short and simple mental conversation becomes automatic when you train your mind to think directly in English. Here's another great story. My friend Laura has 2 young children, and she wanted to teach them English from a young age. She decided to speak only English with them during breakfast every morning. She would say simple things like, "Pass me the bread, please. Do you want some more milk?" Her children started answering in simple English, too. After a few weeks, the whole family started thinking in English during meals. Laura told me, "This little habit made my own English so much more natural because I was using it every day in a real, meaningful situation." Another technique that helps many learners is labeling objects around your house with English words. For example, put a small sticker that says "mirror" on your mirror or "door" on your door. Each time you see the object, you will read the English word. Slowly, you will stop translating and start thinking of that object by its English name. You can also improve your thinking speed by using questions and answers during your free time. For example, when you are waiting for a bus, ask yourself, "What time is it? Where am I going? What will I do when I arrive?" Then answer those questions in English. "It's 3 p.m. I am going to the office. I will send some emails when I get there." These simple exercises create fast connections in your brain. Now, let's create another dialogue example, this time between Emily and her husband, Ben, planning their evening. Emily says, "Ben, should we cook dinner at home or eat out tonight?" Ben replies, "I think we should cook at home. We have some fresh vegetables." Emily says, "Good idea. I can make a salad and you can grill the chicken." Ben replies, "Perfect. Let's start now so we can eat early." This natural flow of ideas happens when you think in English, not when you have to stop and translate each and every word. A very effective method for more advanced learners is to think in full sentences instead of just single words. For example, don't just think apple. Think, "This apple is red and looks sweet." Don't just think office. Think, "I will arrive at the office in 10 minutes, and I need to prepare my notes for the meeting." Thinking in full sentences trains your brain to build correct grammar naturally, without even thinking about the rules. One of my advanced students, Sarah, works as a manager in a large company. She had to lead meetings with international clients. In the beginning, she would write everything she wanted to say in her native language first, and then translate it. I told her to start writing her meeting notes directly in English. She tried this, and within a few weeks, she stopped needing her native language at work at all. She said, "Now, my ideas just come to me in English first." It's amazing. You can also use memory stories to connect English words with images. For example, if you want to remember the word bridge, imagine yourself walking on a big, long bridge and say in your mind, "I am walking across the bridge." This creates a strong picture in your mind and a direct English connection, with no translation needed. Let's practice with a travel example. Imagine you are visiting a new city, and your colleague, Daniel, is with you. Daniel says, "Sarah, do you know where the nearest bus stop is?" Sarah replies, "Yes, it's just around the corner. We need to walk for about 2 minutes." Daniel says, "Great. I hope the bus isn't too crowded." Sarah replies, I think it will be fine. It's still early in the day. When you think in English, you can create these quick, helpful answers without any stress. Another advanced method is to explain things you already know very well in English. For example, if you know how to make tea, explain the process to yourself in English. First, I boil some water. Then I add the tea leaves to a cup. I wait for 3 minutes, and then I pour the hot water into the cup. This makes your thinking process active in English for things that you already do every single day. One challenge that many learners face is the fear of speaking in front of other people. Thinking in English helps to remove that fear because you don't feel like you are translating a script in your head. You are simply sharing your thoughts as they come to you. For example, during a team lunch, you might say, I really like this restaurant because the food is always fresh and the service is quick. That sentence is simple, but it shows natural confidence. Another story comes from a listener named Jacob. He lives in Germany and works in an international office. He used to write all of his emails in German first, and then use an online translator to change them to English. I asked him to try writing his next email directly in English, even if it wasn't perfect. He wrote a simple email. Hello, team. I will send the updated report tomorrow. Please check the first section carefully. His email was clear, direct, and everyone understood it. From that day on, he stopped using translation for his emails. Now, let's try a more detailed role play. This time, it's a family situation. Laura says, Daniel, can you help our son with his homework tonight? Daniel replies, Sure. What subject is he studying? Laura says, He has to write 3 sentences about his weekend. Daniel replies, Okay, I'll sit with him and help him write them in English. Laura says, Thank you so much. After that, we can all have dinner together. This shows how families can also use English in simple, daily life, making the process of thinking in English a normal, comfortable habit. Here is a useful mental exercise. At the end of your day, when you are lying in bed, ask yourself 3 questions in English. What was the best moment of my day today? What did I learn today? What will I do differently tomorrow? For example, you might think, the best moment was when I finished my big project at work. I learned how to manage my time better. Tomorrow, I will start my new task with a positive attitude. By doing this regularly, your thoughts will slowly and naturally turn into English. Another great tip is to read out loud. When you read a short article or a page from a book in English, don't just read it with your eyes. Read it with your voice. Speaking the words makes your brain more active and helps you think in English faster because you are both seeing and hearing the language at the same time. Sometimes learners tell me, Alex, I just don't have enough time to practice every day. And I always say, you don't need long hours of study. Even 5 minutes of thinking in English during a walk, or on a bus ride, or while you are waiting in line at the grocery store, can make a big difference over time. Consistency is more important than the amount of time. Let's do one more dialogue for a work-related context. The manager says, Emily, did you finish the client report yet? Emily replies, Yes, I finished it this morning. I will send it to you right now. The manager says, Great work. Please also prepare a short summary for the team meeting. Emily replies, Sure, I will have it ready by this afternoon. This is the type of natural, efficient response you can give when your mind is trained to think directly in English. One last advanced technique for now is using English when you plan your future. If you are setting goals for yourself, write them in English. I want to improve my speaking skills by practicing for 5 minutes every day. I will join a language exchange group next month. I will start reading English articles about my job to improve my vocabulary. Writing your goals in English like this makes your personal connection with the language much stronger and more meaningful. Another very helpful way to start thinking in English is to practice making quick decisions in your mind using English words. For example, you open your refrigerator and you see milk, eggs, and bread. Instead of thinking about what to make in your native language, try to say in your mind, "I will make scrambled eggs for breakfast." This simple action forces your brain to create simple, direct sentences related to your immediate actions. Let me tell you about Anna, a teacher who moved to an English-speaking country with her husband. She told me she always felt slow when speaking because she was so worried about making grammar mistakes. I advised her to start thinking about her students' lessons in English before she entered the classroom each day. She began saying to herself, "Today, I will teach them some new vocabulary words. I will ask them to practice speaking in pairs." After a few weeks of this mental preparation, her students noticed that she sounded more natural and confident. You can also use short phone recordings to train your brain. Every morning, take out your phone and record yourself describing what you see outside your window for just 1 minute. For example, "I am standing near the window. The sky is cloudy this morning. I see people walking to work." Listen to the recording later in the day. This helps you hear your own sentences and find ways to improve them naturally. Here is another role-play example. Imagine Daniel and Sarah are planning a family picnic. Daniel says, "Sarah, should we go to the park this Saturday?" Sarah replies, "Yes, that's a great idea. The children will enjoy playing outside." Daniel says, "Okay, I will bring some sandwiches, and you can bring the drinks." Sarah replies, "Perfect. We should leave early to find a nice place to sit." This short exchange is full of natural words that come quickly when you train your mind to stop translating. Another powerful technique is to think about your feelings in English. Many learners only think about objects or actions, but feelings are a very important part of communication. For example, when you feel tired after a long day, say in your head, "I feel so tired because I worked a lot today." If you feel happy, think, "I feel happy because I finished my project successfully." This builds your emotional vocabulary and makes your speaking feel more real and human. Let me share a story about one of my listeners, Joseph. He works in a bank, and he often meets with clients from other countries. He told me he wanted to be able to answer their questions faster and more professionally. I suggested that he keep a small notebook with common questions that clients ask, and his answers written in English. Each night, he would read them aloud. "Can I help you with this document? Do you want me to explain the process?" After about a month, he didn't need the notebook anymore because his brain had learned the sentences automatically. You can also think in English while you are planning your weekly schedule. For example, on a Sunday evening, say to yourself, "Tomorrow, I will start work at 9 a.m. On Tuesday, I will have a meeting with a client. On Friday, I plan to rest at home. These simple planning sentences make English a functional part of your life. Now, let's imagine a workplace dialogue with a bit more detail. Emily says, "Mark, do you have time to review the new project plan?" Mark replies, "Yes, I can check it this afternoon. Is there a deadline?" Emily says, "Yes, the manager wants our feedback by tomorrow morning." Mark replies, "Okay, I will send you my comments by tonight then." This example shows how short but clear sentences keep the conversation moving smoothly and efficiently. Another advanced habit is to explain pictures in English. Look at a photo on your phone and describe it in detail. "This is a picture of my family at the park. The sun is shining brightly, and everyone is smiling. My brother is wearing a blue shirt." Doing this builds your ability to create descriptive sentences about anything you see. One of my students, Rachel, used this exact technique with her old family photo albums. Every night, she would describe 3 different photos in English. After just 2 weeks, she told me that her speaking in general had become faster because she wasn't waiting for translations in her head anymore. You can also think in English when you give directions. For example, if someone asks you how to get to the post office, practice saying in your mind, "Go straight for 2 blocks, then turn left at the traffic light. The post office is next to the bank." Directions are a very common part of daily life, and practicing them builds many useful and practical expressions. Let's try another family dialogue. Laura says, "Daniel, can you pick up the children from school today?" Daniel replies, "Yes, of course. I will finish my work early. What time do they finish?" Laura says, "They finish at 3 p.m. Please remind them to bring their sports shoes for practice." Daniel replies, "I will do that. After we get home, we can have some fruit as a snack." Conversations like this happen every single day in families all over the world, and practicing them in English helps your thinking become automatic. Another great tip is to think in English when you set reminders on your phone or calendar. Instead of writing in your own language, write, "Buy bread at 5 p.m." or "Call the office in the morning." Seeing these short English sentences throughout your day will make your brain more and more comfortable with the language. Many people ask me, "Alex, what if I don't know a specific word in English when I'm trying to think?" My answer is always the same. Use a simpler word that you already know. For example, if you can't remember the word enormous, just say very big. Thinking in English doesn't mean you have to use difficult, advanced vocabulary. It means using clear words to communicate your ideas quickly. Now, here is a travel scenario. Imagine you are at a hotel reception desk. The receptionist says, "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" You can reply, "Yes, my name is Daniel. I booked a double room for 2 nights." The receptionist says, "Welcome, Daniel. Please fill out this form." You reply, "Sure. Can you tell me what time breakfast starts?" The receptionist says, "It starts at 7 a.m. in the restaurant downstairs." This example shows how simple exchanges can keep communication easy and natural, even in a new place. You can also think in English by explaining the steps when you are fixing something. For example, "First, I need to find the right screwdriver. Next, I will remove these 4 screws. Then, I will replace the old battery with the new one." This is very useful for people who work with tools or machines, but it's a great exercise for anyone. Another story is about Henry, a small shop owner. He wanted to speak better English with his customers. He started saying every product name in English when he was arranging his shop in the morning. This is bread. These are apples. Here is the sugar. After a few weeks, he could tell his customers' prices and other details in English without even thinking about it. A good daily habit is to read short news headlines in English and then tell yourself the main idea in one simple sentence. For example, if the headline is "City Council approves plan for new bridge construction next year," you can think to yourself, "The city will build a new bridge next year." This makes your mind focus on the most important information, not on translating every single word. Let's create one more workplace conversation. The manager says, "Emily, please send the meeting notes to the entire team." Emily replies, "I will send them out before lunch." The manager says, "Thank you. Also, please check the final report for any errors." Emily replies, "Yes, I will check it right now." Short, direct sentences like this are what native speakers use every single day in professional settings. You can also use English when you are shopping online. Read the product descriptions and the customer reviews in English. For example, you might think, "This jacket is made of cotton. The size is medium. It has good reviews for its quality." Thinking like this connects the English language with real actions that you do often. Now, let's imagine a new story about a man named Ben. Ben is a delivery driver. Every morning, he checks his list of addresses and plans his route for the day. Today, he has to deliver packages to 5 different houses. He starts with the nearest house, leaves the package safely at the door, and takes a picture as proof of delivery. Then he moves on to the next house on his list. During his breaks, he drinks water and eats a sandwich that he prepared at home. Ben enjoys his work because he can meet new people and see different parts of the city every single day. As you listen to a story like Ben's, you can ask yourself small questions in English. How many deliveries does Ben have today? What does he do during his break? Why does he like his work? Answering these questions in English trains your mind to think quickly and find information. For example, Ben has 5 deliveries today. He eats a sandwich during his break. He likes meeting new people and seeing the city. Let's do a short practice together right now. Think about your own workday or school day. Describe it in 3 simple English sentences. For example, I go to my office in the morning. I have 3 meetings. I eat lunch at my desk. Speaking or writing simple sentences like this about your own life helps you to think in English in a very natural and personal way. Now, here is another example from daily life. Sarah and her husband, Daniel, are planning what to have for dinner at home. Sarah says, "Daniel, should we cook pasta or rice tonight?" Daniel replies, "I think pasta is a better idea. We can make it with some vegetables." Sarah says, "Good idea. I will prepare the vegetables and you can cook the pasta." Daniel replies, "Perfect. Let's start in about 10 minutes. This kind of simple, clear dialogue is easy to remember and very practical. If you imagine this situation, you can also practice thinking in English in your own home. You can even try talking to yourself. "I am cooking pasta now. I need a knife and some vegetables. I will boil the water." Another story comes from a listener named Lucy. She lives in London and works in an office. In the morning, she prepares her coffee and listens to a short English podcast. Then she reads a few of her work emails. She tries to understand the main idea of each email, and she repeats some of the important sentences in her mind. After a few weeks of doing this, she noticed that her listening skills improved a lot, and she could answer questions much faster during her work meetings. Here is a helpful tip from Lucy's experience. Focus on the key words in every sentence you hear. You do not need to understand every single word to understand the meaning. For example, if someone says, "The train to the city is delayed due to unexpected maintenance," the key words are train, city, and delayed. You can understand the main situation even if you don't know the word maintenance. Now, let's do a travel dialogue between Emily and her husband, Mark. Emily says, "Mark, do you know where the taxi stand is?" Mark replies, "Yes, it is near the hotel entrance. We need to go quickly because the airport is always busy." Emily says, "I hope we are not late. Did we pack all of our luggage?" Mark replies, "Yes, I checked everything twice. Let's go now." By imagining this conversation in English, your mind is practicing for real-life situations. You can try repeating these sentences in your own words. The taxi is at the entrance. We need to leave now. I hope we are on time. This helps you to think faster in English. Another exercise you can try is describing your surroundings. Look at a park, a street, or a room in your home. Say in English, "There are 3 trees. Some people are walking. A man is jogging. The sky is blue." Simple observations like this improve your ability to think in English naturally and spontaneously. Let's do a story about a student, a young boy named David. David wakes up at 6:30 a.m. He eats breakfast with his parents, and then he walks to school. During the walk, he talks to his friends about their homework. At school, he studies math, science, and English. He enjoys his English class the most because he can read interesting stories and listen to short podcasts. After school, he plays football with his friends and then comes home for dinner. Now, think about David's day and answer some questions in English. What time does David wake up? What does he eat for breakfast? What is his favorite class? Your answers might be, he wakes up at 6:30. He eats breakfast with his parents. His favorite class is English. This type of practice strengthens both your listening skills and your thinking skills at the same time. Now, another role play for family life. Laura says, "Daniel, can you help me set the table for dinner?" Daniel replies, "Of course. I will put the plates and cups on the table." Laura says, "Thank you. Can you also bring the bread and a bottle of water?" Daniel replies, "Yes, I will do that right now." Practicing short dialogues like this helps you prepare for real, everyday conversations. You can even practice them silently in your mind when you are alone. Imagine every step of the action and say it in English. Here is another great tip. Think in English while you are doing small, boring tasks. For example, when you are washing the dishes, you can think, "I am washing the plates now. The water is warm. I will dry the dishes with a towel." When you are cleaning your room, you can think, "I am picking up my clothes. I am organizing the books on my bookshelf." These small habits make English a continuous part of your daily life, not just something you study. Now, let's move to a shopping example. Emily says, "Mark, Do you want to buy some milk and bread? Mark replies, Yes, we need milk, bread, and some eggs. Emily says, The store near our home has fresh bread. Let's go there. Mark replies, Good idea. I will carry the bags. You can also make your own shopping list in English before you go to the store. For example, bread, eggs, milk, vegetables, fruit. Reading your list aloud a few times helps your mind connect the English words with the real items. Another story comes from a listener named Thomas. He wanted to improve his English at work. Every morning, he would think about his tasks for the day. In English. I need to check my emails first. Then, I will call the new client. After that, I will prepare the weekly report. Thinking like this every day helped him to become much faster in meetings because he no longer needed to translate his thoughts from his native language. Now, another role play for a business conversation. A manager says, Daniel, please check the latest sales report and send your feedback to the team. Daniel replies, Yes, I will check it today and send my comments by the end of the day. The manager says, Thank you. Also, please review the presentation slides before tomorrow's meeting. Daniel replies, I will do that right now. Notice how these simple, clear sentences make the communication fast and effective. When you train your mind to think in English, you will be able to create sentences like this naturally and without hesitation. Another good practice is to describe the steps when you are preparing food. For example, first, I am cutting the vegetables. Then I am heating some oil in a pan. Next, I will add the vegetables and cook them for about 5 minutes. Finally, I will serve the food on the plates. Explaining simple processes like this trains your mind to form sentences in a logical order automatically. Let's do a short story about Mark and his morning exercise routine. Mark wakes up at 6 a.m. every morning. He wears his run-in shoes and goes to the nearby park. He runs for 20 minutes, and then he stretches afterward. He often meets his friend Daniel at the park, and they jog together. After the run, Mark drinks a lot of water and then goes home to take a shower. Thinking about these kinds of daily activities in English is a very good and very practical form of practice. The amazing thing about all these techniques, the stories, the role plays, the daily habits, is that they all work together. They build on each other. The more you describe the world around you in simple English, the easier it will be to have imaginary conversations. The more imaginary conversations you have, the more confident you will feel in real conversations. It's a cycle of improvement. Thinking in English is not a special talent that some people have. It is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned and improved with consistent practice. You just need to start small, be patient with yourself, and make English a part of your daily life. I hope you found this episode helpful and that you feel inspired to start thinking in English today. Remember, every single thought you have in English is a small victory. It's one step closer to fluency. If you enjoyed this lesson and want more episodes to help you improve your English, please make sure you subscribe to our podcast, English in Fluency. And don't forget to turn on the bell notification. That way, you will never miss a new lesson from us. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to joining you again in our next episode. Keep practicing, and have a wonderful day.